Saturday, March 7th, 2020. Well, hello, Toledo, and anybody else tuning in from around the world. We have nice blue skies today, a little bit more depth in its color, and I believe that is produced from a lack of the chemtrails up in the sky. The same very ones that probably are contributing to some of the sicknesses that occur in January and February regularly, believe it or not. Now, we'd have to go back and look at the studies again to see what before chemtrails would have been, or the possible implementation of some demonic, and probably, excuse me, I'm not necessarily pressing religion here, but that deals were always made in humanity's structure. And if some of those deals were that the medical industry and those to profit were to get a lot of flu in the wintertime, then in exchange for their support of maybe an illegal war, per se. So you put all that together, and we could see that maybe that's what we ought to be calling out as we see that time will run out on us if we do not find a way to change. Now, as a man that understands some of the limitations of quicker change than what can occur without having it be devastating, the mere thought is to see if by some chance that some more people wake up along the line that will be a little bit more prepared mentally ahead of time before any massive destructive events come about us, whether it be famine or 5G implementation causes a lot of harm or whatnot. And just as a reminder of why there are some people out there who aren't just playing the same old course of hippieism or revolutionary attitude or rebel or defiant without a cause, but we have a cause. Let's take a look at this tree here. If you live in Toledo and you read The Blade recently about the Hinkle tree, a famous tree at Inverness Golf Course, and how the wind had blown it over, it might be related to how all these trees on this street and nearly across the entire earth are drying out at a higher rate than ever recorded before, yet we do not hear that on the front page of magazines of Time and Newsweek and even in the agricultural magazines. I bet they're not there. I haven't been to the library fiddling my fingers through it, but I've watched enough TV to know that all the major important stuff that really matters a tremendous amount. Not that the other things don't matter, but the things that matter significantly are completely overlooked. And if you look at the ratio of attention, of problem and the attention towards, where do these trees come into play? Maybe this is why the Hinkle tree came down, because it's drying out. Now look, go grab a tree, or remember when you maybe pushed them around as a young kid, or maybe you worked in landscaping. You should not be able to push a whole tree around of this size and make it move through the ground. So it is a real battle because these are real issues. We're already losing a lot of our habitat, believe it or not. Now that should just be, it's like generally something in the air. The spell says just tuck it away and move on forward and complain about who's going to be the next president. And state these causes of trade bargaining and all these other issues that really should take a back seat, or at least sharing, taking 80% of the garbage that we see on TV and just say maybe some of it is good stuff, like old pollution in the rivers and the lakes. Never mind, no, that Fukushima still might be the cause of the increased level of cancer, since Japan is right across the ocean and we're downwind. That means that day those reactors blew up, all that radiation flew right over all of our country. Is that possibly some of the increased rates of cancer? I bet if we take a look at it, we'll probably find some correlations there. How do we then get to a place where we can hold on to it as a firm level of understanding that that is what we should push on? As society generally has things that they say, well, these are definitives. We shall not put gasoline in our lakes any longer. And people hold to it. Well, when we learn to hold to the chemtrails are causing this to the trees is the most likely correlation, and that our weather is being overly manipulated to a point of causing droughts, drowning out crops, that we may then be a little bit more like connected to some of these people that have been saying these things for quite some time. I'm a relative newcomer in the field, and I've joined and stayed and will stay, not because I like to and I wouldn't want to just move on with my life thinking everything's great. Let me just worry about my next job and getting more than what I really need. I plan on paying a lot of attention to things of the need, of my want and wish, and would imagine for most people is to have a world of which we can sustain ourselves in. We could be losing that as some of the powers to be and their lack of control of any integrity has jeopardized the very living conditions of the world. Hence, a lot of these ongoing events that keep spiraling, which leads up to the establishment and sometimes maybe even their best intended efforts is to crack down on us and controlling us more, taking away our freedoms and taking away our ability to learn how to prosper on our own, to survive on our own. Once we see that their way continually at the big bureaucratic level does nothing but produce more chaos and more harm, and God bless all the good ones that are involved, but we need then to at least do our part as citizens and stand up and calling things as they are. Whether it's the aggressive, unneeded actions of the medical industry that force unneeded surgeries, or maybe excessive chemotherapy for something that could be solved with the change of diet and exercise. Maybe we could change a little bit of the taxes going out to fight wars overseas. That is not going to save our economy. And any saving would only be very temporary, as the crux and the core of it still being unaddressed is that our debt level is beyond a payable level. So these are the reasons that we see a lot of these events unfolding. They will not go away. These events will continue to happen unless we learn to rise with truth and then solutions, and then there is momentum because enough of the people have enough of the truth that takes the core in the human conscious, both in the individual and the collective. And when that happens, we then permit ourselves a real opportunity to save a dying world, to keep what we have remaining. Or we roll the dice and the numbers don't look good for us all, because now we have an entire industry of the media, an entire government, not only here in the US, but multiple, almost all the governments, countries buying this coronavirus. Now, you know what the bottom line, they try to read the people. And the more we stay on top of it, meaning is that they could then take something that is completely made up and fabricated, because 3,000 in China have passed away out of billions of people, and more people have died, from the flu times 1,000, if not more percent, and yet they would shut down cities all of a sudden. Why didn't they shut down cities 10 years ago or last year over the flu? Isn't that supposed to be contagious as well? So clearly, we have the inaction of governments working cahoots, including the Western governments and the Eastern governments. And what they're bringing about then is their answer, which is, hey, we're going to keep them in the dark to the last bit that they can possibly, to let us know of all the damage that's been caused, because they do not want to take responsibility. And even the good ones say, hey, we're going to hide and lie and deceive our way out. What they're going to do is leave us hanging. That's why nice spring days mean nice spring seeds coming up soon. Hopefully we'll have a good Easter. We do need a Savior, and a belief in the Savior and a belief in God will allow us to at least remove our egos out of the picture and realize none of us have breathed, put into life by the connection of us speaking. Until somebody can do that and they can make a giant tree and heal this tree just by speaking to it. Now, there might be some vibrational energies, and generally speaking, the payoff is not worth the efforts that one would have to go through, as opposed to acting out in accordance to our own minute self. And then if the collective grows in truth, then perhaps we can at least stop what's going on and let the trees grow on their own without us having to focus on them, but just providing them the right environment. Let the birds and the bees re-prosper again, because they are disappearing at alarming rates. Half the insects are gone. Most of the wildlife might be disappeared by 2030. Is it time to go?
Getting in the car, it's like crawling into the key. You gotta crawl in. Like,
We'll
you gotta
see
put
you
your
later.
hands down on the. It's like
We're
crawling.
crawling in.
Right, that's what download the Indian Burijo guy. Like, every time we got Careless
I
Kiss,
hope I
Dave's
was
car.
not offensive in wanting
now we're in
all
a
of
cave.
life to live.
We're in a
Why is
cave
there
now.
smoke in this cave? Smoke in the cave!
Cave's got.
Well, everybody have a great day. Enjoy. Over and out. And
That's the
we'll
Indian
be back soon.
spirituality.